Hello, everybody, and welcome to this tutorial of sorts on the FEP mock interview week. I want to start off with a really big thank you to all of you individually. I know you're busy people and you're giving us not a small portion of your time. And I also want to say a big thank you to ArcBest and Hytrol for letting this many people help us at the same time and for helping with the organization of this. This event is literally not possible without you all, so I can't stress the thank you enough. That said, especially those of you who have not participated in this in the past might be wondering what on earth you've gotten yourself into. So FEP Mock Interview Week has been going on for over a decade, and essentially over the course of 5 days, we arranged for every one of our 678 first-year engineering students to have a 30-minute mock interview with somebody in industry. And this year, all of them are interviewing with ArcBest or Hytrol. So it's a very, very big undertaking. It's also a fun undertaking, which is great. And again, can't do it without you. So thank you again. Our hope is that this tutorial will prepare you for what to expect. We'll give you some confidence and tools to help you in the process, but also help you make sure that you're making the biggest possible impact on our students' professional development. As we get going, I'm going to ask you to put any questions you have in the chat. I will do my best to answer as we go, but if nothing else, I'll answer them at the end. And just so there's not scrambled writing, I'll give you guys the heads up that we're going to email all of this out after this session as well, so that you can refer back to it. So to get started, interview format. So every one of the interviews that you will be doing with students will last 30 minutes and is kind of broken down into 4 sections: introduction, resume review, mock interview, feedback. Introduction is exactly what it sounds like. You introduce yourselves, but then you also bring up the student feedback form, which we'll go over later. Just the top 3 questions. Who are you? Which student are you interviewing? What is their email address? Specifically, their University of Arkansas email address. Once that's done, you get to move into the resume review. This is meant to be very high level, last all of 5 minutes. You can't get into the details in a 5-minute resume review. It's more to say, hey, you got some problems, you need some extra help, and more give them a sense of whether they need to get referred to our office or not, because we can spend all of our appointments for our students are free, and we can have as many appointments as we need to with them. So your job isn't to fix everything so much as to let them know if they need extra help. And then after the resume review, we move into the mock interview portion, of course. We have 7 preset questions that we ask that you guys utilize as you're doing the mock interview. I'll show you those also in a moment. And you have about 15 minutes in total to do the mock interview section. Once that's done, we ask for, of course, you to provide feedback. This is meant to be an educational experience for our students. So we want to make sure that they're growing their confidence and also their interviewing skills. So as you are going over that feedback with them, explain to them what they've done well, explain to them opportunities for improvement, but also please put all of that information in the feedback form. I think we've all been on the nervous side of an interview before where you don't quite hear everything at 100%, you don't remember it all. We want to make sure they have something to return back to whenever they're going to do their next professional interview, or even just after the fact when the buzzing calms down and they're ready to really take in that feedback. Other than that, just a quick miscellaneous thing, which is 678 is a lot of students, so there's going to be a lot of back-to-back interviews. We need to stick to the 30-minute mark, so we need trying to stay on schedule. If you guys are going long on your interviews, I will send you a direct message in the chat, which I'll show you in the demo, or I might just join your table if it's getting really out of hand. So just a heads up. Didn't want that to shock you down the line. Moving on to our interview guide. So you will have an interview guide sent to you after this, and it kind of goes over exactly what you need to be doing whenever you're interviewing with students. So the first thing you're going to do is open the student feedback form, which again, we'll go over in a moment. Introduce yourself and fill out those first 3 questions. And then you're going to go into this resume review section. You can see here that there are 5 initial questions that we give you. You don't have to use these questions. They're more of a guidepost for you as you're reviewing the resume to just think of things that you could be looking for or having conversations with the students. Some of them are pretty straightforward, like did you make a good first impression? Do you have a summary statement? We tell students that the summary statement is optional, as some people really, really, really always want to see it, and some people really, really, really always think it's a waste of space. So up to them. But if they did one, was it good? Ask them if they have any engineering projects or experience. They tend to discount any projects they've been doing in their coursework, and that obviously can help set them apart from students at other institutions, and even the way they talk about them can set them apart from their peers. And then just making sure they have any other experience that should be on there, checking for grammar, that kind of stuff. But again, 5 minutes, you're probably not going to get through all of that in 5 minutes. Pick and choose your battles based on the resume in front of you. Once that's done, we'll move into the mock interview portion. So for the mock interviews, like we said, we ask that you stick with these 7 questions, just so that students are having a fairly consistent experience across the board. We're hoping that by doing that, students are going to continue to have conversations about their experience with you all, even outside of the experience itself, outside of class, and they'll be able to learn from each other a little bit more easily if they've had some similar questions asked. We tell them right off the gate that they're going to get the tell me about yourself question, because oops, that's kind of tried and true. The rest of them are a blend of traditional questions and behavioral questions. They are given information on both ArcBest and HiTrawl through the case study that we give them. So they should be able to talk a little bit about your companies if they prepared for the interview successfully. If they haven't, it's a really good opportunity to talk to them about what preparation can and should look like. And then, like I said, after that, it's just going to tell you to go through, do the feedback, both verbally and on that feedback form, hit that submit button, rinse and repeat for up to 7 students. And now the feedback form. I'm actually going to get out of this presentation for a second so I can just demo it to you instead, because I think that's more helpful. You guys can see this, right? Not okay, perfect. Making sure my screen shared the way I wanted it to. So for this, students will, you will put in the interviewer's name, student's name, and the student's UARK email address. It needs to end with @uark.edu for the student to get credit. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to match them to the right course, essentially. So that's what you fill out at the very beginning during the introduction section. And then you go through all of the resume review, all of the mock interview, and then you come back to this together and you go through and you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 on several skills. So 1 being unacceptable, 10 being outstanding. And you comment on their communication skills. How clear were they in discussing their career goals? What was their appearance and manner? How did they respond to interview questions? Overall, give them a rating. I'm just clicking at random. And then next, we'll ask if you reviewed the student's resume with them. It's okay if you didn't. There could be time constraints that make it so you don't have the opportunity to. We're just trying to figure out keep track of what the student has and has not had the opportunity to learn yet so that we can pick up the pieces that's needed. And then we ask an open response answer for you to give feedback. Again, I'm going to ask that you guys put some detail into this because the students are going to use this in the future to figure out what they need to be working on. Sure, we all know that because it's an assignment, some students are going to give this no more thought, but some of them will really value this feedback. So I'm going to ask you guys to get as detailed as you have time to get. Okay. Moving back to the actual PowerPoint then. I want to take a brief moment and talk about our late policy. So we allow students to come in and still interview if they are 1 to 5 minutes late. If they are late, though, we will have a conversation with them about the fact that being late does not make a good first impression and is not a good way to start your interview. We will, however, still bring them to you. At that point, feel free to have a similar conversation with them to really hone that point in. But because we let students interview still, if they're 1 to 5 minutes late, we ask you not to leave your table until at least the 6-minute mark if a student is no showing, because they could still show up technically. Other than that, just know that, again, if a student shows up late, you might need to make adjustments to what your interview time looks like with that student. You might need to skip the resume review. You might need to skip a question in the mock interview section. You're the decider of how you adjust things, but you just might need to adjust depending on what the student is doing. The other thing I will mention here is that if a student no-shows, or if you just have an open spot in your schedule, because that will happen sometimes, obviously use that time to do whatever it is you need to do for your real job. But we just ask that you keep an eye on the clock so that you're back in time to help the student with the next student with their interview at that point. Okay, and I'm hopping out of the PowerPoint one more time. We're going to come to one of the documents that you guys will get emailed to you later. So to host these virtual mock interviews, we use a software called AirMeet. And so there is a different AirMeet link or event essentially for you to join for each day of the week. So I'm pointing this out so that you're being intentional. If your interview slot is or your volunteer slot is on Monday, you're going to want to sign up for this first one. But if you're not doing any interviews until Thursday, you don't have to register for that particular event, just this one. And then once you are, in fact, in AirMeet, at that point, you'll be able to get registered. So once you click on that link, you're going to come to a page that looks like this, and you'll just click register for this AirMeet. You can do that using an email, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever you want to. And then from there, you're just going to put in your information and click continue, and you'll be done. For the information, we ask that you put your name, your title, and your company, because that's going to give students some really good context whenever they're sitting down with you. And honestly, it will make the organizers' lives a little easier the moment of, because we'll be able to know who has and has not shown up yet for certain things. So I just wanted to call that out. It's not a difficult process, but it is something that we ask you do between now and whenever your first volunteer slot is. Before I go into AirMeet for a demo, are there questions on just like process before we get into the actual? I'm not seeing any questions on there. I just wanted to double check. Okay. Well, then we will go into an AirMeet demo. So when you get into AirMeet, it will analyze your network settings, as you can see now. It had already done this a moment ago. So you come into AirMeet and you're going to see there's all these tables essentially that you're going to be able to join. What you're going to want to do as soon as you get there is come to one of the check-in tables. Some days there's 2 check-in tables if there's a whole lot of students interviewing that day, like on the first day. If you are volunteering on, say, Friday, there's probably only going to be 1 check-in table because there's just fewer students who are interviewing throughout the day. But come to either check-in table. They're both going to be staffed by somebody, and join the table. In order to join the table, you can click on any of the empty seats that are around it. And then once you click in, it's basically going to start a breakout room for you, or have you join an existing breakout room, depending on if anybody else is there or not. Right now, it's not showing my video. Once you're at the check-in table, will the staff member who's there, which interview table to join. So then you'd exit out and you'd choose whichever interview table they recommend, or they told you that you're assigned to. So let's say they gave you number 7. And again, you can choose either of the empty seats that are available, click in, and you'll have a new breakout room created for just you and whoever joins that table now. I do want to point out screen so that you can see the resume. Mute button is going to be the screen, just in case you students through that. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if it's happening for everyone else, but you're cutting out on my end and it's not coming through. Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say the same
I'm wondering
thing.
if the video open on AirMeet is messing with the teams.
It started when you opened the breakout rooms. Yes.
Good call. Thank you, Caleb. And everybody else. Okay. I'm guessing that's better now that I'm not in a breakout room. Perfect. Anyway, so I was pointing out there's a share screen section, and students will need to use that whenever they're sharing their resume with you. I just wanted to make sure you knew roughly where it was, bottom center of the breakout room, so that you have the ability to guide them if they're having trouble finding it. So when you're at your interview table, we really just ask that you stay there for the entirety of your session, that you're not jumping tables. If you're jumping around to different tables, it makes it difficult for the students to find the person they're supposed to be interviewing for. and it just kind of creates chaos in general. So please stay at the same table the whole time. I also just want to point out, in case we need them, that we do have some consultation tables down here as well. Those will usually be used by the hosts like Caleb and I to help with technical issues or have conversations with students if we need to talk to them about something like you don't get to have your interview, you're here at the wrong day, time, whatever it might be. But since technical issues is one of those issues, I wanted to make sure you knew that there was a chance we'd call you to those as well. Now that you know the general layout of this, I do want to still call attention to a couple of features. The first of which is the chat here. We do use the chat throughout the event to just make sure that people know what they need to be doing, to provide some corrective feedback. Sometimes not individuals, just like, oh, hey, don't switch tables, whatever it might be. So keep an eye on that. I also wanted to call out that you can see the people who are registered and the people who are currently here. So initially, this all will tell you anybody who's registered for the event. And if we click on online, you will see whoever's here, but right now it's only me. But the great news about this is you can click on somebody and you can send them direct messages, which is how I would be reaching out, or Caleb would be reaching out to you all if we need something from you, if we need to let you know you're going over time. So again, that's why I'm asking you to keep just a general awareness of this section over here. And if you find yourself needing to get to the direct messages outside of, like, without wanting to click on somebody's name specifically, you can come to this messages section here, and that'll work out. The last feature I want to really highlight is that there will be a welcome session. So for those of you who are doing the morning volunteer session, we ask you to get here at 8:15. Those of you volunteering in the afternoon, we ask you to get here at 12:45. And you'll notice that's 15 minutes before your first interview actually happens. Part of that is so that we just have time to get you to the right table and get everything set up. And part of that is because we do a very brief welcome session where we'll come online, we'll say thank you, of course, but then we're going to kind of refresh your mind on a couple details, make sure you know the basics of what to be doing, remind you to open up the specific links that you need to have open, things of that nature. All righty. And then
Hey,
from
Kelsey,
there, yes.
I wanted to make one comment. I just
Please
got a
do.
reminder that for the ArcBest team, I don't know if this will affect the High Trail team. This air meet will not work if you're connected to VPN. So if you're working remotely on that day, make sure you disconnect from VPN to make air meet work.
Yes. Also true. You might have to, like, this might affect High Trail. I don't remember offhand from last year, unfortunately, but sometimes people have to disable certain firewalls and stuff if you're, again, working remotely. And to that point, actually, we just get to the air meet tips. So air meet, as you guys have already noticed, doesn't always play nice with other video conferencing tools. So whenever it is time for you to be doing your mock interviews, we ask that you leave Zoom, Teams, whatever conferencing tool that you guys use, because it can often get the wires crossed from an audio and video standpoint. We also ask that you use a laptop or a desktop. AirMeet doesn't tend to work very well on cell phones and tablets. And if possible, use Chrome, because that's the browser that AirMeet is best used on. It actually doesn't work oftentimes on Safari and Opera in particular. You'll need to enable the mic and camera, of course, once you join. And if something isn't working, refresh the page. If it's still not working, reach out to the help desk or to me or Caleb directly, and we will do what we can to help you with that process. And then from there, I just want to, again, come back and say thank you. I hope that this helps a little bit with understanding what you're going to be getting into and what we need you guys to do to make this event run smoothly. I'll be sending an email out to Melanie, Lauren with ArcBest, and then to Christy with High Trail with the links, with the video of this recording, all of that kind of stuff, so you guys can refer back to it as you need to. And I'll send it out probably another time as we get closer to the event as well, so it comes back to everybody's inbox, towards the top. But just want to make sure, are there any questions, anything that was unclear, anything that you guys need a little extra support on that wasn't covered?
I had one question or comment. This is Lee.
Yes.
One thing that was a challenge last year, since this does approach almost 4 hours, and I never had, an empty slot. So even if I try to end something a few minutes early, the next person's always there waiting.
Mhm.
Will there be a full every half hour, or or do you attempt to build in an empty spot in the middle somewhere? I mean, it was okay for me last year, but I can see, if I need to do something in a 4 hour period, it was just, it never stopped, and it was a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, we don't have intentional breaks built in, largely because if we put in a 30-minute break for each person, that ends up taking away a lot of interview slots and requires us to have many more volunteers actually. But if you do need to take a break, you can always reach out to us. We have alternates that are staff members with career connections that can step in and take over a portion of an interview or a full interview or whatever it might be. So if you do find yourself needing a break, or if a call comes up that you absolutely have to take or whatever it might be, we can accommodate that. We just need to be told, and we can create that space for you in that time.
I appreciate it. I don't expect
Kelsey-
there necessarily to be. It's just I think it's good for this group to hear how to deal with
Yeah.
it, since it is such a long stretch.
It is. No, it's a fair call out. I'm glad you did.
Kelsey, I think even since it is 4 hours, if there was even just an intentional 15 minutes, a bathroom
Mhm.
break's almost essential for us old folks.
I will see what we can do about that for next year. I can't do it for this year because the students have finished signing up for their time slots at this point. Or rather due tomorrow. So there's too many slots that are already filled in for me to build that in to the schedule. But I think that's a good feedback. And we'll see what we can do for the future.
I did have that happen where a student jumped on early from one of mine last time. And it was one of those that I had to get up. So I just told him, hey, give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. And
Mhm.
it was perfectly okay.
Yeah, the students will jump in because they're anxious and they're nervous and they want to get done. But you are the one who has the ability to absolutely say, nope, I need to start a couple minutes late, or I need a break, or whatever it might be. They're probably not gonna talk back. At least I hope not, if they do tell me. Anybody else? Any other thoughts, questions, concerns? All right. Well, if they come up later, let us know. We're here to help with that. Thank you all again very much for your time today. And of course, for the time when you guys are actually doing the mock interviews. We very, very much appreciate your help. And I think that's it.
Okay, great.
So-
Thank you, Kelsey. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Kelsey.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.